Hey, how's it going? Will you please take a look at my signs before I get started? So I did read some cards, or pull some cards rather, that I will read for you. And I was just sort of randomly writing stuff down throughout the day. Pardon me. And I had pulled the cards early, so I did look at them. Closer to now, actually, like right before I turned on the camera, I did read through what the guidebook had to say about the 3 Shaman's Dream Oracle deck cards that I pulled, because I felt like that was sort of like an extra added in case whatever else I was going to say didn't work out. You know, other option of something to talk about. And that's putting it on 2 like blueprinted or mapped out a series of events. Like, nothing is that certain about what's about to happen here. Did I show the signs already? Yeah, I think I did. Well, in case I didn't hear. Let me just do it again. If I'm wondering, I might be correct. Usually the opposite is true, but better safe than sorry, right? So, there's something interesting about the cards, those 3 cards that I pulled, and they were, I'm not going to read them now, I'm just going to show them to you. They were number 22, Fool's Embrace, Fool, F-double-O-L, Fool's Embrace, and the subtitle is Transmuting Pain. So, there's that card. And the number is 22. I don't know if I'm going to talk about that on camera or if I'm going to write about it afterwards. I may just write about it afterwards. We'll see how it goes. And the next card that I pulled was Feast of Plenty, Choices and Their Consequences, and it is number 20. Yeah, the subtitle was Choices and Their Consequences. And the final one that I pulled from that deck was number 29, Horned Cactus, and the subtitle is Resourcefulness. I don't want my fingers to interfere with the illustration. Okay, so I got some definite messages from those, like, right away when I pulled them, which I always like. Well, now's not the time to explain that, but I like it. And then the final card I pulled from the, this is the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck. And the final card that I pulled from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. What's even in the frame there? I'll go back into your spot. Was it's a water energy card, and it was a stingray. Obviously, it's water energy. It's a swimming beast. So, those were the cards that I pulled. And I will talk about the impressions I got from them after I read you the notes that I took throughout the day. So, I was, well, okay, let me just start. I was watching a lot of news coverage about like the election coverage, like the debate coverage for the Republicans and their primary that's coming up, because the Democrats we got the lame duck. I was gonna say lame goose. Lamb beer, sorry. Goosenecked there. the debate, the Republican primary. Oh yes, the Democrats are not going to have one because we got, oh yes, lame duck. Is it lame duck? I think so. President Biden. And so I don't know if there's people that want to primary Biden. I think there are. I mean, there are, actually, I know there are a bunch of candidates, and they are a bunch that I think will never get the chance. They won't even get a Ramaswamy chance because there isn't going to be any debates. There's probably suppression of anyone that would have a chance because, I mean, twice they swatted down Bernie. It seems like now they're not even letting anyone have a chance to emerge, you know. And I wonder if they're doing that, like if they're actually wasting resources, time, and energy, like whack-a-moling down potential younger candidates that would be more progressive, that would be more widely accepted by progressives and like just younger people probably in general, because I do think this is somewhat ageist, but I also don't think it's wrong. I mean, Biden seems to be functioning mentally fine as far as I'm concerned. He's just a guy that, and he's doing well, I think, considering he's facing a lot of stuff that in his day, in his time, like trans people, yeah, they've always been around, but were they out in the open? And, you know, would his reaction to them have been the healthiest? The prevailing mood of the day would say no. Like, let me put a period on that. I don't want to talk without any punctuation at all. I don't want to just be complete run-on. So, like, I don't think he's like a criminal guy. Like, even when he was younger, when segregation and pre-civil rights era, let's just say that. I don't want to like start listing off details. People can look that stuff up. I'll just say that it was really unpleasant to look at in retrospect. Like, when all that stuff was happening, I was no more than like 3 or 4, so of course I don't remember a thing about it, except vague recollections of like TV coverage before they ran me out of the room, and just sadness, you know. Like, you'd hear little snippets, like I knew people were getting killed, you know, they'd be all quiet about it, but you can't shush the people in the rest of the world. And also I could read, like, there used to be newspapers on like every corner, so each newspaper outlet, not just some guy in a little hut selling them, but like newspaper boxes, machines where you could like put in the money and then it would release the cover, like a case cover, and you could raise it up and snatch out a paper, and it was like transparent so you could read the headline. And so those would be at your eye level as a, you know, post-toddler, whatever you call that age, child, for, you know, a good 3, 4, 5 years. That's going to be right at your eye line. So you got to see that. I saw it. So-and-so got killed. So-and-so was dragged. Before they drag you off, you get to see stuff. And or if you're on a bus, someone just left a paper there, or you're in the other room and they're thinking you're not paying attention and you can just hear the news. So stuff was getting in. It's not like, you know, at whatever I was, 5, 6, 7, not like I was all, what's that? Like at all, like I was waiting for Bugs Bunny or something. That would get me running in there. Excuse me. And what, I start talking about all of that. Oh, Joe Biden's time, I think, or like the man of the time that he was. That was not when I could vote, but that was when, I could just say that a lot of my life there wasn't segregation and white only type situations for a short period of it at the very beginning, which I have no recollection at all of. I would have been an infant. But Joe Biden wasn't. And so, like, everyone, that was just the way it was. Like, the black people just couldn't go places, couldn't use for certain facilities, couldn't vote, couldn't a lot of things. And it was, I imagine, pretty oppressive. Although life sure went on, I can tell you that. I did not hear anyone crying about it, crying about like what they couldn't do or anything like that. And I think I was fortunate. Well, I know I was, because I got to see all different versions of how people were living as a child, like my relatives. And so as a general rule, we were like pretty good, pretty well off for like a black family and extended family in Los Angeles in the early 60s when I was growing up. But not everyone had it that good. Like, I did not live in the South, and all of my relatives were from there, and they all left for a reason. Look that up. Pre-civil rights era. Louisiana, Texas. Well, anywhere in the South, but I'm just saying my people were from Louisiana and Texas. Oh, I guess they still are. They're not all like dead or anything, but anyway, but everything was different then. Everybody thought differently because everything was conducted differently, and people had to behave differently. And there was a lot of people that had to be in like deference of other people for like no good reason, you know, like the Karen stuff that you can see on the TYT channel, Indisputable in particular. I'm sure tons of other places you can see it, but that is where I know you can go. And one Karen type will walk into, say, some place where there's a service clerk, like somebody that has to wait on people. So someone with not a whole lot of power, someone that probably can't change any of the rules of whatever the problem is, you know. All they could do is hear the complaint and pass it on to the next authority, and then also like run the cash register or whatever. They're not like there for you to be taking your stuff out on, that's for sure. But someone will come in and expect these things from people, and I'm not at all saying it's a racial thing what I'm talking about right now, but a lot of times it ends up that just is the case, and a lot of times it ends up it's people of the same race yelling at each other, or one yelling at the other. But in the racial sense that I started out talking about it with is the sense of entitlement that in this case it applies as a sort of pejorative because that's how it's being used. But in other cases it's being used and it's not quite the right definition for what they're trying to say. So it's wrong. But say it's a white Karen to a black employee of the place, and Karen's flipping out or whatever, and the reason why they're a Karen is because they're screaming and yelling about stuff that's not really happening. Like, there's really no offense to them. They're blowing up something that may not even be a real thing, something that they're just lying about out of proportion for attention, like some kind of Munchausen attention mental health symptom or something. So, but the way they'll come off is like, you must obey me. You must like immediately drop what you're doing. And also, I can say terrible stuff to you, but you must kiss my butt like it smells like roses of heaven, or like you can just see like that is how the person is being treated, that is the employee, which harkens back to the ownership owner type dynamic. And it's like a ghost rearing its head in people or something, because I used to say, like, if your family did not have like a generation's worth of backgrounds here, you shouldn't like be coming in like that, coming in all hot like that on people. But now I realize you could be someone in China that is a reincarnation of some personality from here, from the Civil War, and you could either relive that person's, I'm going to say, I'm talking about the people that were sort of like a Nazi type adjacent, like not Hitler, but like his minions, so like the SS, or just like Nazis that were out doing his bidding and stuff, like the evil eradication of certain people and the dehumanizing and all that fun stuff that seems to be having a resurgence today, which makes me think of people reliving this stuff. So the theoretical person in China could be just reliving it all over people in China, or they could like somehow end up back here and find their way into the whole miasma again, and with their reincarnated counterparts. You think that sounds wacky? Sure, it totally does. But it can also be like completely true, because I believe it. So that instance that I was describing also can apply to certain of us that become better off than others of us, because that's kind of how our system functions. Like, that's when it's working. And it's not great for everybody. So hold on, I'm just gonna read this. It's not like set up to be, it was just like jotting, so I'm just gonna try and make sense of it as I can. So I'm thinking about how right now, like even in politics, and it's so blatant there, that it seems like the whole government almost is infiltrated by this corporate Christian fascist Nazi, I don't even know. It's like this whole melange of unpleasantness that's on the right, and it's really a thing. Like, certain ones of us are just like, we don't want you to do what you're doing. We want, they'll just make up stuff that they'll be able to be against people about, that they can say that they're doing, when they may not even be doing that. And that's so Nazi. That's such a Nazi tactic. But the going after the gay, like the LGBTQ community, it's not just Nazi. I mean, it's just like the most famous group that used it, but it's been used in pretty much any case where you can find some conquering, group over the other. Is the way they take it, like they just destabilize the one that's under attack. They demoralize them. They take away like all their symbols. They make everything that everyone used to stand for terrible and bad. And if you don't accept that it's terrible and bad, they'll jail you and also hurt you every way they can along the way. And if you die, oh well, you brought it upon yourself, and that kind of vibe. So that is supported by usually the people that create, I feel like, the most separation and CE damage to society, and that is the richest people amongst us, because, boy, never is anything enough with those people. So, with that background in mind, can you make one concession? Billionaires breaking the rest of the world by having to have more, have better. It's an exclusive club that must needs a population to be better than, and climate that allows it to further its own self. Thirsty? But why though? Don't they just have it all already? So, okay. Water starved. It's like a parallel. Water easily contaminated because it's so permeable. Be as sure as that your drink is potable, because of the whole homeopathic. Think of it homeopathically. You are a body of water. You drink some more water, but it has a contaminant in it. It could be the tiniest portion, but it could also be the most pernicious and predatory and capitalistic contaminant that could affect you. Like, sort of like a dark homeopathic effect, where it instead of like kickstarting something beneficial and good, it like gives you diarrhea and headaches, and everybody else too that you talk to, like you exhale on them and they got it too. I don't know where that came from. Just anyway, oh, right. Expedience and trading without heart, empathy, compassion, equals capitalism done in bad faith. Because wow. It looks like it says and faith. Sorry. It's notes, remember. Oh, well, okay. Capitalism done in bad faith because something can or used to buy. Oh, money, dollars. Yeah, okay, so basically it's money can or used to be able to buy people's way out of trouble. You dig? But around, I see, might buy you out of trouble around prosecution. You dig? So, maybe that freedom that time is up. That time is finally up. Oh, that time of being able to buy your freedom is finally up. It's looking like. People be in... being caught. People be getting caught. I don't understand my own shorthand. It takes a few looks over. Yeah, like maybe that time of being able to buy your way out of all kinds of trouble, like the really prominent people that are in our face and ears a lot, if you were looking at the kind of stuff that'll send that kind of stuff in those orifices. Well, they have like something in common, or I should say someone in common, and because of their association with this common associate. They've all had some form of legal trouble, and that's good. Why? And you want to be loyal to that? Why? I think there's more. So, okay. Well. Oh, okay. So, like, all of that stuff I just said, out of all of it, possibly you were triggered by hearing some portion of it somewhere. What by? I wonder. Like, and it's easy to use trigger or triggered even as a, or either one as a pejorative even, because that's what ends up happening now. Everything is weaponized by the people that are saying everything's weaponized against them, that are out there throwing all the accusations at people and raising all the sand. They're just the biggest victims in the world, and everybody's doing stuff too. And then I'm like, well, when and where? Talk about everything else. Talk about that. So, moving on, I think that was the end of what I was saying there. Deep thirst. Deep length of deprivation. Destabilizing, demoralizing. Cause? Yeah, sure. But beyond this, way beyond, into the depths, or plain old privation. Starvation quest, memory of not plenty. So what that was I was thinking about, well, these things, for instance, cacti, used to be a time when, like, I read many stories of someone, for some reason, being caught in the desert, and like they don't have the horse, and the water is gone, and the stream bed is dry, and you know they're hallucinating the protagonist, and you know it's really bad. Like they need something to drink, and there's nothing, and then they come upon a cactus, and a good forager would have known that you could, not like you could put a tap in it and run some water out of it, but you could pull off a piece of cactus from somewhere and get out as many spines as possible and either chew it or find some way to squish it and strain it and then drink the juice, because you could, you know, extract moisture from it, and then in some cases I guess even a bit of liquid. But, and even now today, well, that's just a huge but to try and replicate that survival skill that I read about in fictional stories. But I happen to know that it's a thing pulled from reality, like it used to be the case, where you could do that if you were in need of water. And I say used to because I have just been reading recently, and I actually have seen some video of how the climate change and the drying up of places where these kind of cactus grow, like Arizona, they are becoming so desiccated that what they're also known to have is a deep root system, and that's where they themselves get their keep their reservoir of water, and have been able to survive and be this sort of plump green, if spiny, don't touch me, get off my water, I'm protective type of plant. They are now in this place of deep thirst. They're in deep privation because the plant itself, it can't even act as like an accidental provider to some wandering, thirsty beast. And, well, they're getting so dried up, they're falling over, and they're just dying, and they're so brittle, and they're like, I don't know. I mean, I was gonna liken this person locked up in there with all the spines around them and the pointy horn, and I was gonna say that, like, that is protecting their, it's mine, everything's mine, you can't have it, and also get away from me, don't touch me, of the cactus, and then of, like, the rhetorical rich person. And so the cactus are not the people, though. It's just sort of a representation, and it's, they had it all, and they just were sort of, well, the cactus isn't responsible for what happened to it as far as the climate changing so bad that it, like, all the water in it dried up, all the water everywhere dried up around it. Like, it's not good in some places. It's hard for life that needs moisture. But the cactus going dry, like, even at its deepest depth, where it's not even visible, and you don't even know about it unless you learn that's there, or you intuit, like, it is dry as dust everywhere, but here's this green thing growing. How do plants grow? They root. So that's where I'd go looking for water, following that thought process. But the plants themselves don't even have it anymore in themselves, and it makes me think of a lot of plant life. Like, I forget how many years ago it was. It has to be like almost 10 now, where there was a flash flood in, I believe, the Mojave Desert, some desert area in California, where there isn't, like, much plant life. And then after this flash flood happened, or flooding, whatever it was, in the following weeks or so, the area that would have been barren was just like a blanket of all these wildflowers, just color and plump, beautiful, good smelling. Probably bees from miles around came in. Like, any kind of pollinator was like, there's a whiff of something fresh on the air, this gotta go. And it was just really crazy and fascinating, and it made me really happy, and I didn't even realize, like, what it made me so happy about it. But it's not complicated. I think it was just literally the burst of flower life and the color. Just that made me happy. That was enough right there to do it. And I would not have even made that connection at the time, but it makes complete sense today. Because I don't know, I understand things differently. But the point of that is that those cactus that are dying and falling over, and they probably are dropping, like, seeds or whatever reproductive stuff they have, and probably just because they're ready for just such an instance where, you know, life has drastically changed. There's no water anymore. It's time to go dormant, go to sleep. Like, gotta dry up. Okay, no problem. Drying all the way up. Like, I feel like there is some reservoir that is not something that would be anything worth, like, a human's time. Like, it wouldn't sustain us for, like, anything. And I want to say even very few animals would, like, thrive on the amount of moisture that I think they probably do have in reserve, like on the cellular level, that would just, like, keep them mummified, basically. And then next, you know, flash flood, and maybe by then things, you know, another decade, things have normalized in the weather, where the driest area where something like this might grow could replenish. But in the meantime, they're in this dormant state, and like I said, it's a whole different world when you go from lush to sand to dust, basically. And I think there's a number of tipping points that are going to sort of happen to these billionaire types, or I don't really want to just be all picking on billionaires, blah, but really I feel like it's kind of obvious just looking around in society, and it's not everywhere yet, but if we don't do something, it's going to become more widespread. And it's the things that the wealthy and famous and sort of like wiener people that are, not just not empathetic and not compassionate, but just kind of just like cruel, like don't even care, like why. I don't know if it's that someone can look at someone that is like living on the street and they're dirty and maybe they're in an altered state, because I know I would want to be probably not too long after having been living on the sidewalk with no walls and no protection, like as a woman, and I am not a dude, so I can't imagine what they must go through, but I don't imagine they're totally safe. They can be subject to the same type of horrible things that a powerless person ambushed, outnumbered, overpowered, like whatever it is. It's not good living outside. So, I mean, that's just one aspect of it. There's weather. There's also police. You gotta eat. There's no bathrooms. There's no shower. There's no running water. There's no toilet. There's no privacy. There's and it just blows my mind that someone could walk up to someone like that and just not even consider that all of that happened. And also, let me add a little bit more to that. That person, maybe like as little as a week ago, was just like you, had a job, had a place to live, had a bank account, had all the stuff. And then, boy, these days it really only takes one thing to trigger a whole domino effect of, if you don't get help quick, you're like really messed up. Like if someone in your family goes to prison and it's your son or your husband or something, so you're already invested in this person, so to speak, and then the whole experience of having a loved one in prison and trying to communicate with them and make sure they have what they need, and so that they can use the commissary, so they can eat some food that's like in a sealed package, and it's just a whole, and then you get like all of this emotional oh my gosh, like worry and I mean, think about it. It's a lot. But do people think about that, or do they just do what people have a tendency to do with the homeless people that are forced to be outside? And it's like, if this is where they ended up, do they look like they have money to like get on a bus and go somewhere else or go rent a car? I don't understand how you can look at the person and expect them to be all, I'm homeless and this is where I just decided to camp because I like it. It's like, maybe this was as far as they got when they had to vacate the place they used to live. Like, they couldn't just hang around in their old backyard or laundry room for shelter, they had to go away. And I don't think that people realize how quickly it could be them in that same situation, even someone really wealthy. Look at Mike Lindell. He has justiced and truthed himself right into the poorhouse, because am I the only one that thinks he might have made a mistake about all of his assertions about voting machines and elections? And I don't know, I feel like he's not mentioning something like about the part where all of these rights also get taken away from people. But see, that's what I have noticed that when people get a lot of money, they change. And I think you kind of, to fit in, you have like peer pressure to change. I'm just guessing, I don't know this on a personal level at all, but I do know that people can go from being a poor personality, basically, like being a poor, and then having a change of fortune, and your social set changes, your peer group changes, and so I can see where you would feel the need to change if you wanted to like socialize with people and not feel, I don't know why this is all coming to me like elementary and junior high school stuff, but really kind of juvenile, excuse me, ways of allowing like new people to enter the circle of society or whatever, and like silly hoops you have to jump through that most people, if you're not already rich and you don't know rich people, or even if you do, they might not necessarily share with you the dynamics of what goes on in their social circles where there's no poors around and it's just them. I imagine it's something like a place where there's all white people, and we're going to put it in the South because I'm wanting a certain type of white people, say a group, even like a social group, like a club, like a club, like a club. Okay. A gathering, a group, an organization of people of like mind. But we know how they are. We know that they frown on certain types of people being in their vicinity, being in existence. They're pretty specific about it, about their ideology. Well, now they have they try to fix it all up, but you know, pig wearing lipstick and all that. They are what they are. And more power to them. But it comes back to really which group has the most power, and what constitutes power. That's wealth. And wealthy people may not totally agree with one another, but when they're playing games like whole real world, like IRL risk with people's actual lives and on actual real estate with actual consequences, because I think that's what happens. I mean, I think that because of what I seem to see happening in my government right now. There's a lot of undue influence by unelected people, and our pal Mitt Romney was instrumental in bringing the legislation to the floor that could say that a corporation could be treated like a person. Like, I don't know how we could vote, but it has a lot of influence, or I should say they, because there's more than one, corporate entity or wealthy, it could be person or group. And like I said, they may not agree with everything, but they might be able to align on enough things that they could form an organization and do things to work against everyone else who's not even thinking about that because they're too busy working and raising their kids. And it's hard because the wealthy people think that nothing you do when you're poor is enough to let you just have it without a bunch of conditions, or no, that's it, without a bunch of conditions. So, and it's well, who made you God anyway? You just have more stuff and better stuff, but it doesn't make you more and better stuff. And it's all, like I said, it's about capitalism, and rich people don't work unless they have an against, a people to be against, a people to think less of, a population to be the poorest, the people to have less power. I do, however, believe that, like I said, the time when that kind of pushing everybody else around, when it's like the balance of power is not, it's wrong for that. You know, there's more people that are, some people are suffering as a result of the actions of this sort of conglomeration of wealthy people. And then it's just hard for like everybody else. And it may not even be like a direct action, although I don't think they mind it, because if they did, they wouldn't be so stingy and cheap. Like I was just thinking earlier, if everybody paid a tax, then nobody would have to pay a lot of it, right? It wouldn't have to be based on like what you earn. Like you could, if you just paid, like if everybody just paid some kind of amount, I wish I could say a flat rate, but I don't know if that would work. But something that it wouldn't be, that it was based on your income, so rich people wouldn't have to freak out because somebody might take some of their everything that they took from everybody else, because that's what ends up happening. Like I said, for their culture to work, there's got to be somebody, there's got to be a poors, there's got to be those, because it's, I don't know who's the big demonstration for. Is it for just us to look at, to tell each other? The poors, we know, we get it. You're in our face, you're making half of us crazy to be like you, and we all have, like, well, we don't all have it, but a lot of us have, like, Kardashian fever, and, I mean, cool, knock yourself out, but, the system we have, if everybody's a billionaire, then that whole, everything goes away, it's all nullified, so maybe that's why there's like such a poo-pooing of the nouveau rich. You're gonna change the natural order of us taking everything from everybody else and making them think it's their fault. So that in mind, and also cycles. I was getting also, as I was watching today, a lot of stuff about water energy, and I've been getting a lot of it, and by that I mean it's been happening for like weeks and months now, that in almost every reading that I see, there's all this talk of water energy, even if it's not a particular like astrological sign reading, and they're not talking about Pisces or whatever. They might be talking about the energy of like the Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, whatever. So here's like something of that. And a lot of times they will talk about, oh, let me finish about the water energy. So it's like, it's everywhere, okay, and it's been for a while. So in my watching today, I watched Sterling Psychic Medium, and he has people that send in questions that he'll answer. So one of the questions had to do with someone from Hawaii, and they had lost their, I believe, father, and Sterling was asking some questions of his guides, I guess, and sort of talking out loud, trying to, like, I guess, translate the question that he was looking at to his guides, angels, and ascended masters, and all these other entities that he could speak to, because he's a psychic medium. And he said, he was like getting information about it, and he says, oh, it was a medical thing. And I thought, that's weird, because when I just kind of tried to feel into it, what I got was washed away and then drowned, okay? So and at this point, he's like sort of riffing almost, it sounded like, getting this information. So he says, oh, washed away, Looked like he was at the beach. Because at first it didn't sound like, especially because he said it was a medical thing. So I don't know if maybe the guy like had a stroke. I think he might have said something about stroke in there. So I guess like the guy had some sort of medical thing. He was someplace in Hawaii on the water, close enough to it that it could like come up and wash him away. And in the washing away, he got drowned. And then the other interesting thing was in this same group of questions, yesterday, the same show, somebody asked about the lighthouse keepers that disappeared from the lighthouse where there was like food still on the table and it looked like the people were just still in the house and it was locked from the inside and the whole island was deserted when like the bosses came back to check. And so I was like, yes, finally someone answers this question. I didn't even like try to figure it out or psych it out or whatever. Psychic it out? I don't know, feel into it. I guess because it's just sort of like a pop thing and I was enjoying it being that. And I don't know, like I guess it just didn't occur to me to try and see if I could tell what happened. But when the person asked him and he was like, okay, so the person asked, was it this, like, I don't know, they asked him like what happened, and I think he was saying that it wasn't anything supernatural, and the person is not there. This is him just sort of talking out loud as he's like stuff is being said to him, you know, psychically, so we can't see it or hear it, but you can tell he's obviously like having one side of a conversation. And then also, you know how like if you're just thinking something through, you will talk to yourself, and it seems like he does that as well. And then he's referencing the question, and it's interesting. He's sitting there by himself, but you would think he's talking to like 3 or 4 different people and himself. So anyway, the answer to the question ended up being, and this was interesting, that there was a storm, a really bad storm, which is known to be the truth, and it washed over the island, and the White House, of course, would have to be on like a tip of the island. And so it was sticking out into the water, and the quarters for the people that work in the lighthouse are right there too, within very near distance of the lighthouse. And so the people, I guess there was like 2 or 3 of them, if I remember the story right, that were there, and they were having a meal, and the storm actually burst in through the window, I guess, and flooded the room long enough to wash the people right out of it, which I was just like, no way, washed away, which is what I heard, and he said already in the Hawaiian question story, and then drowned, which he said had said before. And the other thing I noticed was that a lot of people were saying Aquarian energy is particularly in the past couple of days. That's been more strongly stated or talked about. And that energy is a rebellious, sensitive, eccentric, or creative. And I feel like, you know, what I was reading said that you would think upon first glance that Aquarian energy has to do with water energy, which is what I was just talking about, but it's air energy. But that air often accompanies the movement of water, like storms happen in those conditions, and like washing away people off of the shore of beaches and sucking them out of their little shacks on the lighthouse island. Wow, like that's crazy energy. And so what I got was it's like the Aquarian energy is like poised on the cusp of stuff changing, and when one cycle ends, another one begins, so change is always happening. And so here's this water creature designed, it looks like to me, to stand up very well in those kind of conditions that I was talking about. Stormy water flopping all over, snatching everything. But if you'll notice, it has a rainbow going up its what looks like a spine. And that indicates the chakras. And also, if you think of it, a cycle that we go through, we feel different ways depending on where the chakra is located, and the color corresponds to the chakra and then the area, I guess. And also, like, what it feels like, what it represents. You know, like green will be healing. That's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. But it's all sort of phases we go through. And this is Fool's Embrace, and it's, I want to say it's after a Fool's Energy card. And it says the subtitle is Transmuting Pain. And that would be like, I would almost say eating changes, like eating the changes of the people you know, or just the changes in the air that people are going through, that like whatever fumes they're emitting, and it's sort of like contaminating the air and, we'll say, the water, the emotional energy of everyone around, because there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of rebellion, there's a lot of just sort of acting out of fear because you just are not sure what's happening, and you feel unstable because, you know, water's going this way and that, and you're just like a little styrofoam puff in it, and you're just getting knocked around. And also, in a time of change, opportunities arise. And if you look here, there's a crystal ball, and there's some sort of weapon sort of in it. So that tells me that the crystal ball that doesn't really seem to be showing anything, but there is like a light in there, which it's blank. So it's saying to me that the energy, that light in there, is waiting for you to feed it something from your imagination, and then the weapons are there to just sort of remind you, like, things can be harmful, watch your thoughts. And so all of these ones, I guess I'm going to talk about the numbers now. All of these 11s that I came out with, I didn't really say, so 2s, if you break them down, are 2 1s, and that always to me is an 11. So 22 is 1111. That is a creative, like a union, which you don't just start it, like, it also stands for your twin flames, and so that is part of what a twin flame union or reunion actually consists of, is going through all of the chakras and sort of cycling through the whole tarot card, hero's journey set of circumstances. You're learning, you're experiencing things, you're growing, and you're evolving. And all of these ones also represent, like 111 represents a new beginning. That is likely the first thing you're going to see if you look up the numerology of 111. Here's another 11, the 2s, and so you have a new beginning with the blank slate on the crystal ball, and you've got warnings with the blades in there. And then there's the B, I believe, on there too. And that is a hopeful sign for me. So it's like, you know, you have every opportunity here to do good and positive things, but also, you know, you can cut yourself. Those are amongst your consequences of your choice. Like you might think, oh, this shiny sharp thing might be a good thing, but you might misjudge and grab the wrong part and actually cut yourself, and that is not at all what you want to do. So you want to sort of almost be sure that the water that you're going to drink is not contaminated, or don't touch it at all. Just wait until it's safe to drink. But you want to make sure it's potable, or the air is safe to inhale. You know, if possible, to discern these things. But I'm saying be careful. There's blades. Just know that. Just watch out. And going through the chakras or the fool's journey, remember there's always going to be the possibility of danger. Like, remember Steve Irwin's connection to the stingray. If you don't know who Steve Irwin was, he was the crocodile hunter, I believe. And his two children, actually, his daughter and his son, have a show, I believe, on Animal Planet. I don't watch it, so I don't know the name of it. But Bindi Irwin, I know, is his daughter's name. They're very animal conservation people, just like the father. Their mother is part of it, too, I'm sure. She was always part of it. And he loved animals, and he got real close and personal with them, and maybe, like, misjudged sometimes, or the last time, because the man died when he got too close to a stingray, and he knew it was there, but he did something to get the stingray triggered, alarmed, so that it just, I'm sure, just as a autonomic reaction, just acted defensively and ended up putting its their tails have like almost like an arrow tip on them, and they might even have some kind of poison or paralyzing agent on them, but it ended up getting him right in the heart, so it really didn't matter what it had on it. It was just a fatal blow, and it was just like, you know, a number of unexpected incidents falling in place that ended tragically for the man and his family. But they then, after they got through all of their pain, they were able to transmute it, or to get through it, they were able to transmute it by, you know, keeping the family's business going and their father's legacy alive and their love of animals and saving them, and, you know, having a place to share with the public. You know, they have like an animal show, I guess. So anyway, I mean, I feel like in a way I'm kind of confused by like where I went with all of this, but I hope it's understood that my point was that everybody has or should have a chance to have a fair chance in life. And so the way that I feel like we got it set up right now, where it is admirable and the thing that you want to do to acquire wealth, and in every form that it comes in. And the problem with that is it always means that someone has to be exploited, several someones most likely, along the way. And I would like to see that stop. I think a lot of people would like to see that stop. I think that there's a lot of unnecessary poverty in the world because there are so many people that are really rich that just take so many shortcuts and just like cross out so many vital things that need to happen, because it's not just about you and your money against the poors and the money they don't have, that you think they want all of everything you have because you think everyone's like that, but everyone is not like that. But they don't have to be relegated to being a poor and having a terrible life, you know, because it could be worse than being just a poor. You could be homeless or a drug addict, or, you know, like there's so many combinations of terrible things. And Why are we making it as hard for each other as possible just to, it's not personal. You just want those things and it doesn't matter to you at all. The getting them and having them and keeping them is like really messing up a whole bunch of people that you may never even be aware of or come into contact with, and yet you will still have a huge impact on your life because you wanted to have something. Chocolate. I talked about this. John Oliver talked about it. John Oliver talked about chocolate exclusively on his show. I just mentioned it now and then on mine, but same kind of dynamic. Somebody's getting super rich and doing really well off of chocolate, and somebody's doing like a whole heck of a lot of work and not really making any money at all, and getting ground and family going through it, and like all of the people around them, like the village, like it's to satisfy the needs of the people that gotta have all of the everything. They're really kind of messing it up for other people. And so I don't know how to get there, but I think the solution, I guess I did know how to get there. I think everybody should just pay a fair share of taxes so that stuff is paid for, and then the people that gotta have all of the stuff and acquire all of the stuff can still just do that and not be hurting anyone else because their needs are taken care of because of the taxes. My God, how hard is it? Thank you and good night.